The Supreme Court today has declined to give legal recognition to same-sex marriages. It has said that it is only for the Parliament and state legislators to create such institutions and give them legal validation. The judges were also unanimous in asking the committee proposed by the centre to examine concerns raised by same-sex couples. The court has also held that non-heterosexual couples cannot be granted the right to jointly adopt a child. Remember that the Supreme Court had heard the arguments over 10 days in April and May earlier this year. This brings us to the important questions we wanted to raise tonight. If the Indian society as a whole is becoming more accepting of queerness, why not give the community members the right to marriage or at least recognition of their civil unions? Do we need gender-neutral interpretation of the Special Marriage Act? What are the practical problems the community members face to be able to live together as a couple? And this is despite the decriminalization. Remember, during the hearing, petitioners had talked about the discrimination they face in insurance issues, hospitalization, inheritance, and even in surrogacy matters. And finally, the larger question that arises from this debate: is it time to stop looking at Indian society through a gender binary lens, men as providers, women as mothers and caregivers? We have an excellent activist with us, Brinda Adige, to help us understand her viewpoint on the verdict today. Thank you, Brinda Madam, for speaking to us. You've also always spoken about this need to speak in the language of constitutional rights and occupy spaces as citizens. How do you see today's verdict, and what is the way forward for the LGBTQ community?
See, what the LGBTQ are asking and asked in court today is a constitutional guarantee, their constitutional right to dignity and to enjoy all the rights that citizens enjoy. Now, because of their sexuality and so-called patriarchal sensibilities, the court today has said that we do not have the right to make the law, and all those other guarantees that are given to heterosexual couples, we cannot give to you. You go to the Parliament. So there are two issues over here. One is the moral significance. How is it that the court says we have nothing to do about it? We have decriminalized LGBTQ relationships, partnerships, but we will not do anything more than that. And we cannot let you to enjoy either the right and the joys of adoption, or, like some of them have pointed out, medical and other inheritance issues. And they said, take you to the Parliament. But they could have said a lot more to this, because it's not one or two benches. It is a group of them, 7 of them or so, 5 of them. And they could have given a time limit to the Parliament, saying within this time, knowing fully well there is no representation of LGBTQ in the Parliament. So just like how the Women's Reservation Bill suffered 30 years and the space, the sheer unacceptance of parliamentarians, mostly made up of men, unwilling to share power or think about women or even include women in decision making or making laws for women, they have done the same thing for the LGBTQ. The court could have also been more compassionate and sensitive to address the issue that we are not somebody who have just come now and asked. When you talk about history or anthropological history, Gandharva marriages have been accepted by law because it has been customary. We've accepted a lot of other things. When you talk of customary laws, which was also pointed out in the court today, we had a couple of days ago, one of the high courts in our country saying that a 16-year-old minor can be married off to an adult because of a customary law, even though we have central laws to say that all minors have to be protected and child marriage is an offense. So when my laws can look at customary laws like this, when it suits them, what is wrong in extending that dignity, that equality, which is anyway guaranteed in the Constitution, to LGBTQ? That is my question.
Right. Ms. Adige, the bench also took exception to the centre's contention that asking for recognition of same-sex marriage is a reflection of urban elitist concept. Now, I was also listening to Menaka Guruswamy during the hearings where she talked about how she makes it a point to travel to small towns to help people with support. What are your views on a thinking like that?
Every time the vulnerable, marginalized raise issues, concerns, and articulate their rights that they are demanding, there is some coffee table intelligentsia word or phrase that is coined. This is one of them, urban elite. Now, let us understand why they want to talk about it like that. It is because in the urban areas, we are more vocal. We are not afraid to speak up because we have collectives, we have groups, we have friends, whoever it may be. It may be women, it could be the Dalits, and here it is the LGBTQ. It is not fair, it is not correct to say that in small towns or villages, there are no LGBTQ, or simply because it is so close-knit that the voices are not heard. Not that there are no voices, the voices are not heard. And when a statement of this nature is made, urban elite, just goes to say how patriarchal, sexist, and misogynistic their language is with impunity, because they know nobody is going to, bang them down and say that don't talk about it like this. But when they speak something like this, they are happy to subjugate and oppress and say, now you can take the matter up for the next how many ever years with whichever structure or institution that you want, because now we've already, coined this word, and the urban elite, or the ones who have access to information, ones who can raise their voice on various media domain, will remain silent for some time. That's all they want, to subjugate and oppress and silence people who are raising these demands and concerns and rights, because everybody knows that they are right to rightfully ask for all of this.
Right. Ms. Adige, please stay with us. We also have content creator Kabeer from the queer community joining us. Kabeer, what do you think of today's verdict?
Extremely disheartened. You might just say all the right things, but you don't act on any of it. That's precisely what has happened today. The worst part is that, you say, you've presented it in a manner that it makes us feel very good, but at the end of it, when it comes to actions, none of it really comes to our help. And what you've really done, the worst part is that whenever you're wronged by someone, it's not the intent that we look at, right? So you might have the greatest of the intents there, but the impact, what it has really left us with is something that we are back on the fight. In fact, we are worse, in a worse spot when it comes to our fight, because we gave all our heart and soul to all the conversations that were supposed to happen in this, from scientific to historical to statistical to whatever's happening across the world. And yet you refuse to hear us. And with that, you also at the same time bolstered the narrative of the government of the day that is proclaiming this to be an elitist concept, while you just dissed that off in one of your pronouncements. But at the end of it, you are still siding with them. So that does really go to something.
Kabeer, Saurabh Kripal throughout the hearings kept insisting on one point, how important marriage is to the community. So tell us, how important is this right to marriage and also the right to adopt for the members of this community, or the fact that civil unions need to be recognized, because Menaka Guruswamy also listed out the problems of the couples that they face when there are medical issues, or even with insurance forms. So how important are these basic rights to the community?
They're extremely important. That's the problem. That why is the majority deciding for the rights of a minority? It will always be the case, because statistically and scientifically and historically, we'll always be a minority. So does it mean that we'll always be underrepresented? We will never be heard, and we'll always be quashed and oppressed the way we are when it comes to marriage, or when it comes to see, I'd like to have an option. The thing is that you're not even giving me an option. That's exactly the base of discrimination that I am starting my lives with. I am a step behind as any other citizen, even though I'm not asking for privileges. We're not asking for privilege. We are asking for equality here. I'm not asking to be exempted from tax, right? I'm saying that I will pay all the taxes. Just
Right.
give me the same rights as my hetero
Right.
counterparts.
Right. Ms. Adige, time and again, the ones who oppose same-sex marriages have said that this would disrupt the sanctity of marriage or alter the traditional concept of marriage consisting of a biological man and a biological woman. Should this debate on same-sex marriage equality also make the society think more on those lines of rejecting the world as just comprising males and females, accepting people with different sexual orientation as equals?
Absolutely. Because you and I know that patriarchy has time and again used religion, used tradition, used culture, used all kinds of words that they want to say is the norm, that is acceptable. What we want to tell them today is to shatter that patriarchy, because there are so many changes, and the world is not only changing, our attitudes, our outlook and views and opinions are changing to so many other things. Now, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, if somebody said decriminalize prostitution, everybody would have said, no, this hurts my sensibilities, it hurts my sentiments. Today you are talking about sex work.
Right.
So you're willing to look at all of these issues with a different lens. So what is stopping us from treating people who have different sexualities with the same equality guaranteed by the Constitution? See, again and again, we need to reiterate, nobody is asking for any special treatment.
Right.
What we are saying is these are constitutional guarantees. Right to live, right to privacy, right to dignity. And if that dignity is not being respected by the structures and the systems of my land, of my country, and my parliament,
right?
Are they not lying?
Yes, ma'am, we're running short of time. Thank you so much for making that critical point. I also wanted to talk about mental health and the impact of all of this on mental health, but we're running short of time, so maybe next time. So that was a panel on the verdict on same-sex marriages delivered by the Supreme Court today. Clearly, for the community, the wait for equality is longer, but members say that the fight will go on. That's all we have for you in the news break. Thank you for watching NDTV.